Previously on Jay Speaks. Professionally, as you know, I'm the Executive Director of the Women's Business Center of North Carolina, which is a program of the National Institute of Minority Economic Development. And what we do is we strive to support and provide resources to all entrepreneurs, but our focus tends to be women and minorities. So we do it through one-on-one counseling, trainings, networking. We also have a second nonprofit under the National Institute. It's Institute Capital. So what we do there is we support entrepreneurs with access to capital. So as small business owners, you think, oh, I need funds to be able to start my business or grow my business, but they're not ready for that traditional bank just yet. So that's where Institute Capital comes in. It's a CDFI, which basically stands for Community Development Financial Institution.
So
yeah, along with many other programs.
So when you say access to capital, are you talking about mostly grants?
So grants, but lending, so loans is what is done through Institute Capital. Every once in a while, we may have some grants available if the opportunity opens up.
Okay, so Institute Capital does the lending.
They do the lending, and then they also help distribute grants when we're selected to be able to do that.
Awesome. So how did you...
Check out today. Empowering Women Entrepreneurs. Erica Vasquez's mission at the Women's Business Center of North Carolina.
What's something new you discovered about yourself this year?
Something new I discovered about myself this year, I'm really intelligent and smart.
Okay. That's good.
Hello, my name is Austin Greenlee. I'm 11 years old and I'm at DNS.
My name is Jace Taylor. I'm in 5th grade and I'm 10.
My name is Caleb Buchanan. I'm in the 5th grade and I'm 10 years old.
What was your favorite memory from 5th grade?
My favorite memory from 5th grade is I'd say me being with my friends and or actually me going on my first field trip.
Oh, what was the first field trip?
To a Life and Science Museum.
What is something that you remember that Mr. Kelly taught you this year?
Oh, 3 words. Accountable, responsible, respectful.
How do you want to grow or change in the next year?
I want to make sure, even if I make mistakes, I correct them myself. And even though I know I need to do better sometimes, I can try myself to study or dare to dream big, never give up, and strive to excel even more as a DNS man.
If I could thank my parents for one thing, it would be letting me go to school.
And what do you like most about the school?
Everything.
I want to thank you for always being here for me and putting me at this amazing school, Durham Nativity.
I've started to do things I didn't even think I'd be able to do, or things I didn't even think about doing for the longest time. And because of DNS, I went off to a boarding school in Virginia. Primarily why? I think I was one of probably like 5 Hispanics, and it was like, you know, I felt out of place for a while, you know.
5 Hispanics at the whole boarding school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of how many kids are at the boarding
There's
school?
like 400. Wow. So it's definitely it's different, you know. I was here and my class was primarily Black and Hispanic students, and like leaving that comfort zone it's difficult. And like I said, without DNS, I don't think I would have been able to compete.
I'm a grandparent of 2 graduates of Durham Nativity School. My oldest grandson graduated in 2015, and my youngest grandson graduated in 2020. I learned about Durham Nativity when my oldest grandson was 4 years old, and I followed the school until he became eligible to apply, which was in the 6th grade. When I learned about Durham Nativity, I knew it was a place that I wanted my grandsons to attend. It provided just a nurturing environment. It challenged them academically. And I always tell people it's one of the best decisions that we made as families to allow our grandsons to attend Durham Nativity School.
I always wanted to be a teacher, and ever since I started working in education in New York City, my very first principal pulled me aside and said, there are 33 kids in your class, 5 of them only matter, because they're the only ones that are going to pass the state test. Don't focus on the rest of them. That got me really angry. And so since then, I have been working to break systemic barriers to ensure that there's equity in education wherever I've been. So for the last 20 years, this will be my 21st year as an educator, I've been ensuring at whatever position I am that all students, regardless of their backgrounds, have the same access that everyone else does and that they should in order to succeed.
Hello everyone. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you who subscribe to Jay Speaks, thank you so much and welcome back. As you know, it is my mission, it is my passion to bring to you all conversation topics that are positive, motivational, educational, and informational. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to be here with Angel Mateo Aguilar, Ruby Thompkins, and Tiffany Arafai, an alumnus, a board member, and the head of Durham Nativity School. Durham Nativity School is dedicated to creating an enriching and nurturing learning environment, along with a 12-year comprehensive support system tailored to young boys. The school aim is to empower students who have a determination to excel academically. From the start of their enrollment in the 5th grade throughout their college experience, dedicated faculty and staff guide these young boys to mature to young men, making sure that they are equipped to navigate the challenges of preparatory high school, college, and universities. Most importantly, Durham Nativity admits students without consideration of race, religion, ethnicity, or color, as long as they qualify for the National School Lunch Program and or come from disadvantaged families. And what's the overarching objective with Durham Nativity with these young boys? Well, achieved through the implementation of smaller class sizes, extended school hours, and an enriched academic calendar, Durham Nativity's approach is dedicated to instilling a sense of selflessness, shaping the next generation of exemplary individuals, and fostering pioneers within their communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit back, relax, and most importantly, listen. And hope that today's episode you understand for yourself that Durham Nativity is nurturing young men in order to transcend barriers and become future leaders and role models in their communities. So Angel, Tiffany, Ruby, how are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, how was your weekend? How was your Monday?
It was a Monday, but nice weekend, so.
Yeah, I'm thrilled because we have had an appeal because of the flooding, and we've had an overwhelming support from our donors, both in the Durham area as well as far away as New York City, help out the school. So very excited to start the week off with some checks in the mail.
Yes, that's always a good thing, always a good thing.
Yes.
For me, just another day of summer vacation, getting through my college process, and glad to be here.
And your first Monday of break, actually.
Yeah, it is. I worked at the summer reading camp, and last week was the last week, so it was the first time in a really long time I got to sleep in. Yeah.
Awesome. Looking forward to anything in particular, or just relaxing?
Just relaxing, yeah.
Just relaxing. And you're coming from out of state too,
Yeah.
so you're officially back home.
Yeah, I am.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, he's actually at one of the boarding school partner schools, Woodbury Forest in Virginia, and
Yeah.
so he lives there during the school year and comes back. So it's incredible to have partners both in the Durham area as well as in surrounding states.
Awesome, and again, congratulations. Wonderful
Yes.
achievement. Well, before we officially get started, please, if you don't mind, I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves. Say a little bit about yourself. What made you want to be affiliated to Durham Nativity School? What made you want to join the school? But yeah, please.
Well, my name is Ruby. I am a board member, but most importantly, I am a grandparent of 2 graduates of Durham Nativity School. My oldest grandson graduated in 2015, and my youngest grandson graduated in 2020. I learned about Durham Nativity when my oldest grandson was 4 years old, and I followed the school until he became eligible to apply, which was in the 6th grade. When I learned about Durham Nativity, I knew it was a place that I wanted my grandsons to attend. It provided just a nurturing environment. It challenged them academically. And I always tell people it's one of the best decisions that we made as a family is to allow our grandsons to attend Durham Nativity School.
Wow. So where are your grandsons now?
So my oldest grandson, he's working and he's out, doing his own thing. My youngest grandson will be a rising sophomore at Emory University. Because of Durham Nativity and the opportunities that it provided, we're happy to say that he is on a full ride at Emory. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Quest Bridge Scholar, which is absolutely amazing.
Quest Bridge, so what is that?
So Quest Bridge is a scholarship for low-income young people who want to attend good schools, Ivy League schools, and it's a real sort of rigorous process to apply. He applied when he was at Carolina Friends School and was accepted, and I got his tuition bill last week. It said 0.
Wow. What is he majoring in?
Business with a concentration. He was going to be finance, but now he wanted to be media. So he wanted to be a producer, So
Nothing wrong
really
with
proud of him.
Yeah, he's got a real presence. I went and visited him last year down in Atlanta with some of our other alum who are at Morehouse, and so just to see them all at the table talking about their Durham Nativity experience, talking about college. It was his first semester, and they were trying to give him pointers of who to talk to and how to talk to your professors and what you need to do to get extra help. And it's nice that the brotherhood exists, even amongst people who weren't in his class. He was actually also there was that wedding that they went to a couple weeks ago.
And I tell my grandsons, I'm always reminding them that the opportunities they have today, and I said this with so much sincerity, it's because of this school. I am sure had they not attended Durham Nativity, their path would be so completely different.
Wow, and how did you find out about it?
So I worked at Duke, and Sue Wasley, who was the dean of students at Duke at that time, this was 20 years ago. And so she called my office one day asking my boss if he wanted to go to the school that she was serving on the board at. And it was a new school that just started. And so she said, I was like, you can't go. I said, but I'll go. So she invited me to a morning assembly. And if anybody had ever been to a morning assembly at Durham Nativity, that's where you really see just how amazing this place is. And I was like, oh my God, I was so impressed with the young men. They were so mannerable. They were just, I was so full. I told my daughters, I said, when he gets to be in the 6th grade, please let him go to that school. So I followed the school from the time he was 4 until it was time for him to apply, and he was accepted.
Wonderful.
Do you remember any of your morning speeches or the evolution of your morning speeches?
For sure. I remember my very first one, I was getting made fun of left and right. It was like bad. I couldn't speak in front of people. Back then, it'd be like the teachers would all sit in a row and they'd like everybody point out one thing you did wrong. And every teacher had something to say. But by the time I got to graduate from DNS, I gave one at the graduation, and they said it was flawless. So it was like, it was definitely a challenging process, but standing up in front of people and getting people to talk is one of the best things DNS does.
So public speaking is something that Durham Nativity really enforces.
Yeah.
I always tell new parents, I said, give your child the first semester. You're going to begin to see the change in that child. More confidence in him. He's going to be able to get up and begin to speak in public. So just give him time, and you could just see just how the young man is just transforming into just, young men who are able to do speeches and go out and represent the school.
That's definitely good.
Have you seen the transition in high school that you being able to get up and public speak in class or in the community?
For sure. I mean, when I arrived at Woodbury, obviously there's a whole bunch of talented people there already. But that one thing that stood out, I feel like, was like I wasn't afraid to be the first one to talk. I wasn't afraid to volunteer to do something. It was always like my first hand's always up. And I feel like that left a really good impression on all my teachers, all my educators, all my peers, for sure.
That's wonderful. So what motivated you to attend Durham Nativity?
So I think at the time I was at Reaching All Minds Academy, a school in downtown, it's nearby, but my cousin had attended Christopher. He's currently he just graduated from Cristo Rey, he's going to NC State. But he was going to the school. He was a 5th grader at the time. And I told my mom, Christopher told me a whole bunch of good things about it. And I was like, Mom, I really want to go here. And at first my mom was a little bit taken back because obviously you have to drop off. There's no bus, make our own lunches. I'm not sure if it's like that still, but it was like that back then. So it was definitely took some convincing on my part. But eventually my mom was like, yeah, this is amazing. Like, we're going here. And I mean, yeah, that was kind of it.
Wonderful, that's awesome. So how about you, Tiffany? Head of Durham Nativity School, for how long?
Yeah, this will be the start of my 3rd year, which is absolutely incredible. Education's in my blood. My grandfather was an educator for 37 years. and my grandmother worked in the kitchen at the elementary school and middle school in their town, and so I was always raised in schools. Whenever I was on vacation with them, I would be there. But I always wanted to be a teacher, and ever since I started working in education in New York City, my very first principal pulled me aside and said, there are 33 kids in your class, 5 of them only matter, because they're the only ones that are going to pass the state test. Don't focus on the rest of them. That got me really angry. And so since then, I have been working to break systemic barriers to ensure that there's equity in education wherever I've been. So for the last 20 years, this will be my 21st year as an educator, I've been ensuring at whatever position I am that all students, regardless of their backgrounds, have the same access that everyone else does and that they should in order to succeed in life. So a friend introduced me to the school, actually the outgoing head before I took his position, he was here, and he said, you know what, Tiffany, we met 8 years ago, and I think this might be the place for you. And I had worked in a similar program when I started a school overseas, and so when I found out I got to do that every single day here, I was like, yes, sign me up. I am in. And so it's not even like going to work. It's just walking in my purpose, serving the incredible young men, their families, the community. I love waking up every day and coming here. So.
Wow. Curious, are you the first woman head of the school?
No, I think there was one. Yeah, I'm the second woman.
Wow, that's beautiful, guys. That's awesome. I love the energy. So curious, so how would you say that you've grown as a board member, as a head of the school, as a student, or a graduate, I should say, since, you can talk about it too, because I'm sure, board member duties and understanding, but since being affiliated with Durham Nativity School.
I think one of the things that Durham Nativity provides, whether you're a board member or a grandparent or a student, or even a community partner or mentor that comes, is that we're an all hands on deck school. And that you come in, you're wearing one hat, and then you're asked to do something else. You volunteer for something else. You step up and do something else. I think the initiative to collaborate with each other, to help out, how can we all rise together, trying new things and doing whatever it takes to help our incredible young men succeed, not only when they're here 5th through 8th grade, but also beyond. And so it's amazing to see people step into the building who've never been here before and say, you know what, I'm gonna help. And it's also incredible to see people like Ruby, and she was talking about Dean Sue and the Moylan family, and we have a number of other people who have been here for the past 23 years that the school has been in existence, just continuing to step up and help out in different ways, and it helps challenge us. And yeah, I can see students who come in and they're thinking, okay, I'm an athlete, or I'm gonna be a doctor, and then they walk out and maybe that has changed. Has your, what you wanna do changed?
I feel like I've always had a kind of like what she said, like I was always like, I'm just a soccer player, that's what I've done since I was born, and that's what I want to do. But I think what DNS does a really good job at is opening your eyes to different things. And before I came here, I don't think I was anywhere as near as a good a student as when I left. I was very bad, and I had very bad records at my elementary schools.
You had potential. You had potential.
And when I came to DNS, it was like a change, and it was a struggle at first. Mr. Mahoney could tell you. He was my 5th grade teacher here, and that first year was very hard on him. I could tell you that. I still look at him and I say, I'm sorry.
You understand from Messiah's first year in 5th grade.
Exactly.
But like she said, DNS really does a good job at like opening your eyes, and there's like, it instilled a sense of purpose. It's like everything I do has a purpose, and to work at it like I'm gonna get something out of this. No, it's more like it's for the community. It's for the future. It's for everybody around me, not just for me.
So DNS, you guys do community projects as well?
Yeah, 100%. And I think Dr. Moylan and Mrs. Moylan, when they started this school, the original vision was, how can we better serve our community? He was seeing that all of these boys were ending up on the trauma table because he was a Duke surgeon, and his just calling to serve. How can he serve these young men who don't have these access, and how can he serve their families, and how can he serve the community? And so one of the things that I make sure every single day, whether it's in our class schedule or it's in what we do in our projects, is community engagement and service learning. And so we actually have community service every single day now. And so our guys go out and work with community partners to ensure that we're paying it forward. Our young men have been given a lot of privileges and a lot of access to opportunities. There are people that still don't have that. And so how can we pay it forward? And so connecting with the community organizations is incredibly important. Walking in his legacy, helping them pay it forward. He actually, helped with summer camp, and so he's paying it forward. The Court Bogian Trust endowed our summer camp, and that's a tuition-free summer camp, a co-ed one, for boys and girls for reading. And so how are we continuing to serve? And I think one of the other things that is incredible about serving is not just what you give, but what you get. And that purpose, and the sense of, okay, how am I living in that sense of purpose, and how am I fulfilling this legacy?
Wow.
I think for my grandson, my youngest grandson, for an example, he came to Durham Nativity School, hating school. He did not like school. When he was in public school, he used to cry every day. His teacher said he couldn't read, and this is the one that has the full ride to Emory, okay? he couldn't read, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I told my daughter, it's the environment. When he came to Durham Nativity, he was a member of the first 5th grade class. Mr. Mahoney was the first 5th grade teacher. Mm-hmm. And I felt so sorry for him, because he had these young men who were just straight out of elementary school, who were now in this environment where they were being held accountable, where they were being provided so many opportunities. And when you talk about growth, I feel like the way my grandsons were able to grow, and even me, is to watch the opportunities that these young men have been given, to see the experiences that they have had, and how they are now like my grandson. If I say, we're gonna go to Liberty Street and feed the homeless, they're ready, because that's what they've been taught here, and how they have grown to be, compassionate, and how they've grown to, care about their community. So I think when you talk about growth, that's what I've seen.
Wow, thank you for that. Well, I can't really talk to your grandsons directly, but do you care to share a little bit more detail about that environment?
Yeah, I think every morning we started with the DNS Man Creed, and just like that routine of like, I'm gonna say this and we're gonna say it with purpose. And it was purpose, because Mr. Mahoney, I remember, is like, if he didn't feel like we meant it, we had to say it over and over again. There was this one morning we spent like 30 minutes, and it's like a 25-second thing. So it's also like, if the teachers can reach one kid, and that one kid can spread it throughout the entire class, that sense of urgency that students get, it's incredible. I remember that my 5th grade class, we were a mess, but slowly on, one by one, we all started witnessing what the work does for us, and we turned out to be a pretty good class.
Yeah, and what you learn here, the soft skills, it spills over to other areas.
No, for sure. I remember pretty well. We had this one student, and I still remember him very well. I haven't seen him in a while now, but he was very shy and he was just a very quiet kid, but slowly he became a presence in the classroom. And I feel like his presence showed us this is what we can do too. If he can change that drastically, so can we.
Awesome. So he was like a role model to you guys.
For sure.
Awesome. So you talked about collaboration. Does Durham Nativity collaborate with other schools or just more so other organizations and
Everything. We are part of an ecosystem, and the ecosystem in Durham and the Greater Triangle, we are trying to create a pipeline funnel that was cradle to career. And so how can we support young men from boys all the way to manhood at schools, in the afternoons, on the weekends, in the summers? How part of the Man Creed says that DNS men will never walk alone because their brothers in DNS are always beside them. And so we want to ensure that we are going out there and having that support within the community. So this past weekend we were out with Book Harvest, and we were helping them on their block party and celebrating reading and literacy and getting the word out about the school. Thomas Mentor Leadership Academy, that is a program that we are invested in, shining light in the darkness, as you know. Teacher is one of the founders. And so how are we creating meaningful connections to the community that impact our students, that impact their families, that pay it forward to others? Part of the community service and community engagement that I talked about earlier, we go over and work with other schools, public schools, private schools, charter schools. We know that if we strengthen each other, then all of the children are going to rise. And so our young men go over and they read to other students. They go play games with them. We're working on different collaborative projects that are coming up. Right now, some of our young men are off at Camp Siegel at YMCA out at the beach. And so they get to see some of their peers from these schools at that camp. And so how are we creating partnerships with other schools, with other organizations, so we all can thrive in Durham, and that we have an ecosystem of young men that know, whatever happens in life, if something good happens, something bad happens, they kind of have a mental health toolbox. And so that's really important for us here, well-being and mental health and physical health, but that they're never alone. That if they need support financially, we have financial partners. That if they need support, mentally and well-being and physically, we have doctors, we have therapists, we have other organizations. That we're partnering with schools, like we were just talking about applying to college a little bit earlier. And so I'm like, okay, give me your list of schools. We'll talk to some of the people who DNS is connected with, and we'll have you talk to them about the schools you want to go to, because he's applying early. And so hopefully we can continue to strengthen that pathway, because right now we're a 12-year program, 5th grade through college graduation, but we know that pathway is not always straight. Yeah. And so how do we honor that each path is different? How do we support each student throughout their journey? Our reading camp supports our students before they come in 5th grade, and as well as some of the siblings. And how do we support them? We just celebrated our 20th anniversary of our first graduating class in 2005, so very, very exciting. We had an event in Topgolf, and so they're almost, they're 34, 35 with children. And so from all the way from our first graders to 35-year-olds, that's a big ecosystem, and so we can't do that alone. We really need the help, and we know that other people can help us, and we can help them.
Speaking of, no.
I was thinking when we talk about schools, I think I am really grateful for the partnership schools that we have, where our young men go. Most of our young men go to private high schools. Carolina Friends, Durham Academy, Ravenscroft, all the local private schools. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity for my grandson. I was grateful for that opportunity because it gives them, it puts them they go from Durham Nativity to where, all the students, basically look like them, and they go to these private schools where they are able to compete. And what I always tell my friends, I said, this is the thing that I think people don't understand. When our young men go to a private high school, or most of the kids there have been in private school since they were in the 1st grade. So these kids are coming from private school in the 8th grade, but they're still able to go and compete with those kids who've been in private school all their lives. And to me, that's one of the most exciting things for me, to see that our young men, they didn't go to private school when they were in the 1st grade, but they still can go and be as competitive as the kids that have been in private school, throughout their elementary school and middle school.
And win those scholarships and get those full rides.
Yes.
And I mean, we have young men who, they're men, they're not young men, who are in medical school, who are on Broadway.
We have one this year that he got a full ride to Purdue. So,
yes. and who are working in the Triangle in all of the different fields. So it's pretty incredible. The ceilings, I mean, it's sky's the limit. So I'm excited to see where you go and what you want to do.
Well, speaking of ecosystem, and you also brought up partnership schools, and you also mentioned how you went down to Morehouse. So I don't know if you're familiar, but Morehouse and Spelman, kids can take classes with, Spelman kids can take classes at Morehouse, Spelman. With that being said, do students at Durham Nativity, do they take classes, or can they take classes at the partnership schools?
Not yet.
Not yet. Is that something that you are thinking about?
I think post-COVID education is an incredible place. Schools are looking to collaborate more actively. Our partner schools really have opened up to us. And how can we do projects together? How can we work on a robotics team together? How can we compete with debate with each other, and not only against each other, but help each other get better? And so right now, it took a few years to get out of the post-COVID. We are at a place of strength in our curriculum that we are sending our teachers over to these partner schools and actively looking at collaborating curriculum-wise. We're looking at collaborating in the programs that I mentioned. So some good things are on the horizon.
Okay, so essentially the curriculum that teachers are going to be teaching at Durham Nativity, they'll be also teaching the same at other schools. So all the teachers are just on one board.
Yeah, so we're a tiny school. We have one teacher per subject area. Okay. And so it's very lonely for just one math teacher, just one science teacher. Usually you have a department to collaborate with, and our partner schools have all opened up. Send over your science teacher, send over your English teacher. And so they now have connections at these other schools to see, oh, this is what you're doing in ELA, you're reading this text, excellent, we'll read that text too, and prepare the guys, because our guys are going to be going to high school, and we want our young men to have as rigorous curriculum as possible, so like what Ruby said, that there's a seamless transition to high school.
So what is a typical day? I know, because I know that you mentioned community service is a part of every single day.
Yeah.
But if you want to answer, or Tiffany, what?
There's a lot's changed over the last couple of years, I think. And you can talk about the angle to this after I finish, but one of the things we're really leaning into is being built for boys. And our school is built for boys, and we want to ensure that they have opportunities to do things hands-on, whether it's hands-on learning, hands-on physical activities, making sure that they're out experiencing things and not just being passive learners, that they're being active learners. And so throughout our day, we weave a couple different elements. You talked earlier about how your parents had to make lunch and everything. one of the very first board meetings that I went to, actually I think it was the first one, I was like, we are essentially, you know, the same demographic as a Title I school, but our guys have to bring their lunch. Let's see if we can find a donor who will donate lunch. And they upped that and said, well, we're gonna have breakfast, lunch, and snack. And so that's provided now to all of our students. And so every child knows that they're gonna come and get hot food and get snacks and get fed throughout the day. And families really, really enjoy that. We also incorporate physical movement throughout the day in a number of ways. Middle school, most of the time, young men and women too, but little boys, they need to move. And so in middle school, a lot of schools take away recess. We actually have added recess. So we not only have recess in the morning, but we have recess at lunch, then they have PE, and then they have sports. So 4 times a day, they're out and moving and doing different things, which is fantastic. And so, you know, us having scholastic sports, we have soccer and cross country in the fall, basketball and wrestling in the winter, and baseball and track and field for the first time this coming spring. So really excited about that. Then we have a really focused curriculum because we know a lot of our young men come to us behind in reading and math. And so we focus on English, math, STEAM, which is incorporated with science, technology, engineering, arts, and math for our science classes, and then social studies, and then everybody also takes music. And so that's our core curriculum. And then every day they also have either a mentoring class, a character education class, a leadership class, or college or high school placement. And then they also have community service, or PE.
Wow.
So we've got a packed day, moving very quickly, but ensuring that they get everything that they need. And then we also offer additional support for our young men in the afternoon through homework help, because we know that since COVID, the young men and women need that extra help that's outside of the classroom in order to make up the gap that they have. And so right now our rising 5th graders, 6th graders, they were in preschool and kindergarten when COVID started and they had to go into quarantine. And so we're still making up gaps for them in terms of reading and math. And so I am so happy that we have an incredibly dedicated faculty, staff, and volunteering system that is able to help bridge those gaps for our incredible young men.
And the school days from 8 to 3?
They can arrive 7:30, 7:45. 8 o'clock is when our assembly starts and they have their morning speech. 3:30 is when the formal day ends, but then we have the homework help and interscholastic sports until 5 o'clock. So it's a very long day. It's kind of like boarding school where you're at right now.
And it's shorter than it used to be.
And it's shorter than it used to be.
6 o'clock.
Yeah. So we keep them busy, but we've found that a number of our students also are participating after school in the incredible programs in the ecosystem we're talking about. So whether it's the Emily K Center or Student U or the Boys and Girls Club, who offer phenomenal after school programs, we want them to be a part of these programs. And so how can we help? And so that's what we do.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, talk a little bit about, I guess it goes back to, unless you guys know, but talk a little bit about the history of Durham Nativity School. I know that you talked a little bit, you mentioned the founder's name, I believe, because I think that the school did not originate where it is now, right?
Ruby can probably talk a little bit more about.
So, the first school was, I think, on Andrew
Avenue, yes.
You're talking about location-wise?
Yeah, location.
Yeah, and then it was on Driver Street, I believe, and then here. And when I first came to Durham Nativity, Dr. Moylan he was still living at that time, and one of the things I would be so impressed with when I would drop my grandson out is to see him. he knew every boy's name. He had such a connection with these young men. You know, he and Mrs. Moore, I mean, they truly care about them. And I think that the young men, they could see that. Even today, he holds a special place in those young men's heart. We were so sad when he passed away, sort of suddenly, but he loved this school, and he loved every young man that attended Durham Nativity School.
Yeah, and I think they were able to bring in so many champions
Yes.
for the school. Dan and Susie Hill,
Yes.
and you talked about everybody being sad, and Dan and Susie passed away within the last year, and they, besides the Moylans, I think they brought in the most people to the school, whether it's community partners or donors or students or volunteers. And when we think about, you know, how the school has changed and how the school has grown, it's about community, it's about serving others, it's about that connection that you form. It's about knowing children by their names, knowing parents by their names, being able to connect our students with the colleges that they wouldn't have. And I have really big shoes to fill. Dr. Moylan was not the head of the school, he was the founder, and Carole. But there's a poster in the front of the school, and if anybody asks me, okay, what direction are we going, or what's happening? I said, have we consulted the poster? Because everything is there. He has laid out an incredible vision for us of what we want to do, how we want to provide access to opportunities, how we want to break down barriers, how we should serve others, how we need to, you know, regardless of background, you know, connect with people, bring them in, create true, lasting relationships, because only through that can you create true, lasting change. And at the end of the day, he wanted to change Durham. He's not from Durham. He's actually from Connecticut. And they came down here, and he was a doctor at Duke, but he saw so much potential in the city. He saw so much potential in the young men and the families. And you know what? I'm having a bad day. A student's having a bad day. Okay, that's what I was saying. Not yet. With the potential you were saying in 5th grade, like they come in and it's already, greatness is already inside of them. Their greatness and the ability is already in there. How can we amplify? How can we uplift? How can we empower? And how can we celebrate every single day? Because it's already in them. We just need to help bring it out.
And he felt that education was the key for these young men.
Yes.
If they would be provided the opportunity to get a good education, that it would open doors for them. You know, it would change their life and their family lives. You know, at Durham Nativity, it's even more, not only about the boys, it's about families. You know, and I tell people sometimes, Durham Nativity is not for everybody. It's not for every family. You gotta be committed. You gotta bring your child to school every morning. At that time, we had to fix lunches. When we
make sure the uniforms all
in 2015, when the boys got a report card, the parents got a report card. You know, the parents were expected to be role models and be do community service. So he felt that, and Mrs. Moylan too. I have to say something about her, because she would come in and tutor the young men, and she had this presence about her. And she was like their grandmothers. Do you remember Mrs. Moylan?
Yes, I do.
And she would come in and just volunteer, and she just wanted what was best for each of these young men. And she probably saw more potential. She and Dr. Moylan sometimes probably saw more potential than even their parents may have seen in their young men, because they believed in them.
Beautiful. So I just have I just want to kind of transition a little bit to just general conversation about education. Please, if you guys could share your insight on the importance of equal access to a primary and secondary education being the foundation to a just society. Do you guys have any?
Well, I think it comes down to opportunities, right? I think education provides these young men with opportunities that, otherwise they wouldn't have. It sort of evens the playing field, right? That's something that no one can take away from them. And I tell my grandson, what you get up here, nobody can take that away from you. And so I think, it's the opportunities that the education provides.
That's why I'm here. It really gets me going when kids don't have the same access as each other because of their socioeconomic background or because of what district they live or what their zip code is. And I think that that's why I made the jump. I love being in the classroom, but I made the jump to being an administrator because how many more kids can I help? How many, in terms of systems change, you have to keep going up the ecosystem and trying to change. And so I know that in my ability to collaborate with other schools, I'm helping what's going on in their ecosystem there. I know that we're connecting students and families. Every child should have access to the opportunities that we have here. And it pains me that there are kids everywhere that don't, but that's why I think I work so much harder for the young men here and to trying to get them here and ensuring that, okay, how can we spread what we're doing? How can we expand? How can we continue to grow so we're not just touching the young men's lives, but their families and their communities? And who knows, we may be educating a young man who's going to cure cancer. We may be educating someone who is going to be able to find a renewable energy source to, change the future. We may be educating someone who is going to transform the education system that we all know needs to happen in public education. So that's how I feel like we're changing things a little bit and doing what we can here. So.
As far as the partnership schools, have they been open to instilling some of your reasonings as to why we should help disadvantaged families?
Yeah, I think, it's when you get beyond all of the, talking heads and people, liking school choice, not liking school choice, liking private school, liking public school, all of that. At the end of the day, people go into education and they become teachers because they want to serve children. And so when you talk about, okay, let's serve all the children, how can we serve all the children and get down to the basics, I think that's when we can have really great conversations about, okay, what are you doing in your classroom differently? What are you doing in your school differently? How can we all move forward? How can we collaborate? What can we do differently? So,
I also think the partner schools understand, because they provide opportunities for our young men to attend their schools. So they understand that, it's important for them to provide our young men opportunities. Because otherwise they wouldn't be able to go to, most of these private schools. They couldn't afford it, right?
Absolutely.
And so I do feel that they want to be able to give our young men an opportunity to a great education along, just like we do.
Yeah. I think the goal of anyone, my goal, but I think any goal of any principal is if someone walks into a job interview and on your resume you have Durham Nativity on there, or whatever school, but Durham Nativity, you're like, oh, that's a DNS man. I want him to work at my X, Y, and Z, or I want that person on my team, or I want to collaborate with that person. But that should be the same of every school, like understanding that, you stand for something, you lead with something. I know that's why our partner schools continue to choose our young men to go there, because they know they're getting young men of character. They know they're getting young men who have incredible potential. They're getting young men who are able to compete with other, whether it's an all-boys school or a co-ed school, to compete with all of the students. So.
Do you have anything that you want to say?
Yeah, like they said, opportunity. I think since the moment I got to DNS, I've started to do things I didn't even think I'd be able to do, or things I didn't even think about doing for the longest time. And because of DNS, I went off to a boarding school in Virginia. Primarily why? I think I was one of probably like 5 Hispanics, and it was like, you know, I felt out of place for a while, you know.
5 Hispanics at the whole boarding school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of how many kids are at the boarding
There's
school?
like 400.
Wow.
So it's definitely it's different, you know. I was here, and my class was primarily Black and Hispanic students, and like leaving that comfort zone it's difficult. And like I said, without DNS, I don't think I would have been able to compete against that. I don't think I'd be able to be okay with it, you know, because there's a sense of I want to be home. Like, this isn't where I feel at home. But because of DNS, I don't only compete, but I tend to do pretty well everywhere I go. And because of Woodbury, I went off to Mexico. I've gone to New York. I've traveled to different places, and I've done so many different things that I just couldn't have imagined as a little kid. So yeah.
Talk about that a little bit more, you know, adapting to environments that you're not used to. Because a lot of people, they stray away from opportunity because it's not something that they're comfortable with. Yeah. But you hit it head on. Now, did you know that you were going to be 1 out of 5 before entering the school?
I kind of had a sense that I was going to be pretty left out.
You had a tour?
Yeah, I think I went over once. So
How many of those 5 were DNS brothers?
2 of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had come from here to there.
Yeah.
And another one's coming in
next year.
In August. So
That's pretty impressive.
yes.
Yeah.
So DNS makes up the diversity, well, not 100%, but
yeah, for sure.
wow.
No, I mean, when I arrived at Woodbury, there's diversity. There's a lot of Asian kids. There's a lot of kids from Europe. There's South American students, Central American students from all over the place, but it's primarily a white school. And I mean, yeah, it's just it's a lot of that has to do with culture, you know. Like, I'm not doing the same things as these kids that are when we're at home. And they're making friendships way easier than I am, and obviously that has a lot to do when you get into the classroom, because you're not as close as you are to other students. But you get used to it, you adjust, and you learn to make connections, and those connections is what makes successful stories, for sure.
Beautiful. I'm glad that you were able to overcome that. Because I know a lot of people who have dropped out of universities and high schools because they couldn't stand.
When I first was accepted into Woodbury, I told my parents I was scared. I didn't want to do it. Like, I think the only reason I applied to Woodbury was because the old head of DNS, Mr. Vincent, he came from a boarding school in New York, if I'm not wrong, and he told me, you would be a great fit for Woodbury, you would make a great student there. And at first I thought he was a little bit crazy because I had never left Durham. I kid you not. I've gone probably to another city, but I've never left the state. And for me, it felt like the craziest thing in the world for me to leave North Carolina. But he was so right. Yeah.
But I think it goes back to the man creed. I mean, to never give up. Right?
Never give up.
And I think a lot of our young men take that with them.
Yeah.
They know you got to work hard.
Well, yeah, you're a testament to never giving up. Yeah, good for you, good for you. Now, going back to the education piece, you know, having access to primary and secondary education is important, but some would say that that's not enough to ensure a positive future. With that being said, do you believe that in this current time that there's equal access to a tertiary education? And if so, what do you believe is the cause of that not being so?
I think so. I was talking about no pathway for our 12-year program is the same and straight. We are a college preparatory program. We prepare all of our young men to go to college, but life happens. And so how you deal with life's left turns, right turns, sideways, upside down, that determines how you're going to succeed or be resilient. And so how are we providing them with, okay, you were planning to go to this college, but this happened. Something, your father died. You had to take over the family business. You decided you wanted to switch majors and they don't have the one you want at that school. You didn't get enough scholarships, all these different things. And so one of the things we're really trying to work on is those multiple pathways. Going and partnering with Durham Tech, partnering with Wake Tech to get credentials and their associate's degree. It's a lot more affordable for our young men to go and enter that way into college if they don't get a Questbridge scholarship or other scholarships from other schools. Are they being entrepreneurs? Are they starting their own businesses? Are they taking over their parents' companies? We have a lot of families who have entrepreneurial businesses, and so the students want to just jump into that. And so helping them in those different things. And I think that, the jump from high school to college and university, some families don't talk about that, early on, and that doesn't seem real. And so we try to talk about it as early and often as possible, but also getting them onto those campuses. One of the things that didn't happen while you were here, but we're doing actively now, is taking them. NCCU is in our backyard, Duke is in our backyard, UNC, A&T, NC State, Shaw, Meredith, well no, Meredith's all girls, but getting them to all these different universities, Fayetteville, Campbell, just so they can see. The guys were actually at Howard. They went up to DC and they were up at Howard. Getting them onto the campuses to see what it's like, getting them to understand what does it mean to go study there and have access. But also partnering with organizations like the Men's Achievement Center over at NCCU. I think a lot of first-generation students whose families have not walked the pathway of college and university get there and are kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Where do I get money, and how do I afford this, and how do I navigate these systems? And some of our young men, who are connected, we help them through all of that. But not every student has that luxury, and so partnering with programs like the Men's Achievement Center that Dr. Heath started, and Jalen Spooner's in charge of over there right now, they help us with that pathway. And so when I was talking about an ecosystem from cradle to career, that's an amazing thing that they do. And so how can we hand them off to programs that will then, okay, I will help carry through this part of your 12-year program and beyond? Because access, it's difficult if you don't have someone opening the doors for you. It's difficult if you don't have someone who's able to help fund it. It's difficult if you don't even know that it exists. You could apply for a Questbridge scholarship. Yeah. Did you know that before?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you did, but others don't. Yeah. And so helping them understand what that access is and how do they do that, that's something that we provide, because not everybody gets that. And so how can we continue to spread that? We actually also, for our young men who are in high school, every September we have an essay workshop. And so our incredible ELA teacher, Mr. Cox, who's been a phenomenal educator for over 40 years, does that. And so we're looking forward to him having that workshop this September where he'll work on college essays with students and different things in order to help them get in. Not everybody has that access.
Okay. Well, I have a follow-up.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, entrepreneurship, taking over parents' family businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a different path.
Yep.
Just to piggyback on that, people in my generation, Generation Z, and then people in the generation before me, millennials, a lot of parents are not requiring of their children to attend tertiary schools for a multitude of reasons. People believe that college is a scam or a money grab. People believe that the value of a degree has decreased over the years with so many people graduating and struggling to find employment for years. And then also parents have pushed their children to entrepreneurship, family business, trade schools, and as such. And with that being said, why do you all believe that, seeking out a tertiary education will always be important, if that is your position?
Position is that our students need to be lifelong learners. And lifelong learners, whether it's at a college, a university, a tech school, even people who are entrepreneurs, they need to learn things. And so how do we create an ecosystem where everyone's continually learning? It's when you get complacent and you're like, I know everything. Or I don't need to get better at this. I think that's kind of the rut that people are in. My dad likes to laugh. I have an art history degree. That's what my bachelor's in. And my dad was like, what in the world are you going to use an art history of architecture, specifically Middle Ages architecture? Are you going to use? Are you going to be restoring cathedrals? Well, ironically, our church and the sanctuary, we have stained glass windows, and I got to use that. So I'm very happy I got to use that. But my dad, who's a businessman, and my mom, who worked in hospitals and as a real estate agent, they, were skeptical of me being an art history major 25 years ago. And my dad and my mom understood that learning was important and that I needed to find something I was passionate about, and that becoming a better learner, learning how to read, learning how to speak, learning how to have conversations, learning how to network, that was a lifelong thing. So I needed to do something that I would enjoy in order to do that. I don't think all of our students have that luxury. I didn't. As soon as I graduated, he was like, so how are we going to make money? Because you need to get a job to support yourself. And that's kind of how my career went all over the place in education. But it's how I think families need to support. Learning always needs to happen. And traditional learning is changing. AI has changed learning. Different types of education and credentialing has changed learning. Getting trade degrees have always been around, but they're definitely changed since, I had an option to do trade school or college. Families need to support continuous learning.
Well, I struggle a little bit.
Yeah, you can struggle.
And I think I've talked to Tiffany about this. For me, I am 100% believing in education, right? Mm-hmm. But I do also believe that college is not for everybody, right? And one of the things that Durham Nativity teaches the young men, I think, is not only to be a good student, but be a good leader. Yes. And sometimes you don't have to go to college to do that.
And you can be a quiet leader.
Right, but it teaches them how to become, I think Durham Nativity teaches them how to be accountable, how to work through problems. And so my oldest grandson, he didn't finish. He dropped out during COVID.
Out of college
during COVID. But he has, he's successful in his own right. He has a job. He saves his money. He wants to start his own business. And so he's successful. And I feel I feel that I wouldn't want him to be in so much debt, right? And he still could be successful without going to college. That makes sense?
Yes.
So I think college is important for everybody, for some of our young men. But I think that being leaders, that's what we teach them. And so they're going to be okay whether they go to college or not. And they're going to be lifelong learners whether they go to college or not.
Well, because he's had to learn all of those different skills to start his job and to work in his field. And I think his internal motivation has gotten him there, because there isn't someone laying a pathway for him. He has to blaze that trail.
I tell you what, when I think about him, what he's learned from Durham Nativity, he's going to be on time. Right?
He's adulting.
Yeah, he's gonna save his money. He probably has the first dollar from the first check he got when he starts working. So I see all these other things that he learned while he was here. He just didn't get a college degree, but he still learned a lot of important things.
The soft skills. From
Yeah.
It's transferable.
Yes.
Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, like what they said, that routine, that like process, it instills a lot into you. And it's like, I learned things here at DNS that I use at Woodbury, and I'm pretty sure even if I don't go to college, which hopefully I do, I'll use what I learned at Woodbury, and I'll use it in life after college and in college. And I think the same thing, I'll learn things in college that hopefully I'll use after in my career and then after that. So it's definitely like what the learning process instills in you is what we need to take out of that education process.
Totally agree. So Tiffany, in your response, you said a word that really caught my mind or attention: change learning. And I want to piggyback off of that. I feel like I've been piggybacking off of you for a minute. So much has transpired since the founding of DNS. You said change learning, ChatGPT, AI, Siri, Alexa, e-learning, remote learning. So my question to you...
Zoom. Yes.
Zoom? No, please. I don't know everything. Yes, Zoom. So my question is, how has Durham Nativity adapted to all of these changes, incorporated some of these changes in order to give its students a well-rounded education?
The power, we are small but mighty. And so we are willing to try things, and if it works out, great, we adopt them. If it doesn't work out, move on to the next thing. And I think that is in everything that we do. And so, as AI comes up, ChatGPT, Zoom, we do what works for our young men. And we don't do things that don't work for them. Part of our ecosystem and what we do is we're incredibly responsive to their needs. We are constantly talking to our alumni, to our grandparents, to our students, to the families about what's working and what's not working. And so we're in the classrooms, we know what's going on. If they're like, we hate this meal, we're changing something. Or if they're like, okay, well, we need to figure out a different way. And, if one of our partner schools has said, we need to build up your math program a little bit stronger so when they get to us, they're on par with our young men. Okay, excellent. Let's look into the curriculum. Let's look at the math program. Let's see how we can backwards design to make it stronger, still filling in those gaps, but then raising the expectations. I think what we see our young men is with a strengths-based mindset. Everybody comes in with strengths and not a deficit-based mindset. And so, with changes that are happening so rapidly in education right now, you kind of have to take a deep breath and know not everybody's okay with change. I have a really high tolerance for change, so I have to constantly take a temperature around with everyone. Okay, am I moving too fast? Did everybody get this? Can we move forward? Some change is good, but then some things are timeless. Being on time, having a firm handshake, presenting yourself in a way that someone remembers you and like, ooh, yes. Those are all things that are timeless. being able to hold a conversation. I think one of the things our young men, even the most shy young man, he can be in a room, be at a table with, community partners, business leaders, whoever, board members, and have a conversation. You don't get that a lot of places, having middle school boys having conversations about what they like, what they don't like, what they want to change about the world.
The students are people say, well, how do y'all raise money? So we have to raise every dime around the school. And how are you able to do it with students? They sell this school. You take them to in front of business, to sit down in front of business meetings, they can talk the talk, right? If you bring visitors here and they get up and they do morning assembly, they sell the school.
So could you give an example of something that you tried and it didn't work out, and an example of something that you tried and it did work out?
Tried and it didn't work out. Okay. Staffing and all sorts of other things. English and social studies can either be combined or be separated. It can be humanities or it can be ELA and social studies. And I've, in talking to the students and talking to the school, we needed to combine and have humanities for a couple of years. And so that was great, but students need an understanding of history. In some aspects, we don't want history to repeat itself. In other aspects, we do want things to repeat themselves. And so having knowledge of yourself, having knowledge of your people, having knowledge of the history of the world and how things got there from multiple perspectives is incredibly important. And so over the last couple of years, we haven't had social studies and history. We're gonna go back and have English and social studies / history moving forward, because with so many schools taking it out of the classroom and kind of watering it down or saying what you can and can't say, it's really important for us to have these multiple perspectives, for them to dive into the incredibly rich history of Durham, of North Carolina, of the world, not from a single perspective, but from multiple perspectives. So that's something that we went to, and now we're coming back and having those two classes. I think something that has really worked is adding that movement time in the day for the young men. You can ask any adult in the room how they feel after it's been a rainy day and the kids haven't had recess. We don't have a gym in here. Unfortunately, we don't have our angel donor who's been able to give us a gym yet. That person is coming. I'm manifesting them. But it's very difficult for the guys to move when it's raining outside. And so when they don't get that movement multiple times a day, you can feel it in the building. You can feel the energy you understand. You can feel like the energy needing to get out. Actually, 2 of our board members have donated some exercise cardio machines that now, even if it's raining and some guys need to burn off some energy, we can send them and put them and have them go on the elliptical or on the treadmill, which is great because young kids need to get that energy out. And so I think everyone sees the real value in movement and how, you go out for 15 minutes, you move, you come back, and then our young men are laser focused on what we're doing in the classroom.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Angel, everybody can answer this, but what are some qualities of a good teacher or a great teacher?
So over the years, I've definitely had amazing teachers. I feel like a teacher that truly tries to get to know you, to not just what you know, but like who you are, is the first part. It's getting to be comfortable with them, getting them to get us to open our minds to them. One that makes us feel comfortable, I feel like there's like a whole bunch of teachers that know their stuff really well, and they kind of forget in the process teach us in a way. They get too focused on trying to show off their knowledge. I've definitely had a couple of teachers like that, but here at DNS, I've had teachers who truly just sit down with you, like one-on-one, and try to teach you that one little skill or that one little unit. And I think that was, for me, that was the breakthroughs where I felt comfortable enough to ask so many questions or ask things that the teachers probably didn't even think about. And like through that little conversation, I learned so much more than I would have if he just did a lesson or she just showed us a video. So, yeah.
How about you guys? Do you want to answer?
Well, my experience with my grandsons, it's always been great teachers here at Durham Nativity School. I mean, one of the reasons why we left public school was a bad experience with the teacher, right? I told my daughter, get him out. He got to go. And when they came to Durham Nativity, the teachers, cared about them. And if they had an issue, they worked with that child until that issue was resolved. I love how the teachers held the kids accountable. I said that was probably one of the most powerful lessons that my grandsons got when they were what you do not only affects you, it affects your brothers, it affects the school. When you go out in this community, you are representing Durham Nativity, you are representing your family, you are representing Durham. So it has always been great teachers.
I'm laughing because I tell them that when they go out to places. Yeah. You're representing yourself, your school, and your city. Go.
Yeah.
Teachers that connect, teachers that hold the students accountable, that set those high expectations. And so I was talking about strengths mindset versus a deficit mindset. Teachers that see potential. And, you can teach a kid to add in multiple ways. I'm talking like simple. And this is anyway, but I'm giving this as the example. You can teach them to add in many different ways. But if the student at the end of you explaining doesn't understand, a good teacher, a great teacher, isn't going to say, oh, they can't learn. They're going to say, okay, how can I explain this differently to help them understand? What can I do? How can I be creative? How can I change? Because I need to reach them somehow. And they're going to figure out some other way to connect with them, to connect it to their personal life, to connect it to a sport that they like, and finding that way and not giving up. Because, an example, we had a math teacher this year who was phenomenal, and he's working with the kid, and he was just going at the problem with the kid, and then he's like, you know what? I need to think of this from a different perspective. I need to figure out what perspective he's seeing the math problem, not perspective I'm seeing the math problem. And so, they're outside, they took everything outside and they're doing outside on the field and measuring angles and rates and all sorts of things. And so a great teacher understands that you can't just teach in one way. You have to teach in ways that students will learn and that you can't give up. And it's making that connection, it's holding them accountable, and it's being persistent. And thinking, you know what, there is potential, you are gonna get this. I'm gonna be here 100 times after, it'll take 100 times, great. If it'll take 1,000 times, great. We're gonna still do it because I know that at the end of the day, you're gonna get this.
It reminds me, my grandson, my youngest grandson, he came in 2018, he was in first fifth grade class. And the dean of students, Mr. Jemison, he was the dean of students at that time. He left probably 5 years ago. He still calls him. He still, if he needs some advice, that's who he calls. And I remember during COVID, he wanted to play basketball. And, he nor his mom wanted to get the vaccine, and I'm like, okay, what's wrong with y'all? And his mom said, I don't want him to get a vaccine, I don't want him to get a vaccine. And my grandson's like, I want to play basketball, but I don't want to get a vaccine. I said, okay, well, that's a choice you got to make. The school said you got to have the vaccine, otherwise you can't play. And the only person that could convince him was Mr. Jemison. And this is a teacher or a staff member who's no longer here. But he created that relationship and that trust that he still can call him today, till this day. Even yesterday, he called them and he was like, do you want to go and to DMV and try for your license? And it's not only Mr. Jemison, there's still many teachers who are no longer here that these young men still have a bond with because they cared about them.
Wow. So just garnering your responses, so your top teacher highlight is a teacher that holds his or her students accountable.
Oh yeah, for boys, yes.
Yours is a teacher who is patient, persistent, and open-minded. And your top quality is a teacher that makes an environment, I guess, nurturing enough for you to be your true self with them and open up to them, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. No, I love it. I really love it. I'm just trying to showcase that I'm listening to you guys, and I appreciate you guys' answer. Another question. Another question. Perusing your website, I noticed that DNS values the following: academic competence, ethical principles, knowledge, cultivation of character, and my favorite, self-control. My question to you guys is, well, all of you, of course, why those 5 in particular? Were those the 5 that were instilled before you came, or before your grandsons?
I think they've been here since I've been here. Those are the values I think that Dr. and Mrs. Moylan sort of laid out for the school.
So I know that you guys are not Dr. and Mrs. Moylan, but why do you believe that those 5 were chosen? Why do you believe that those 5 are important?
I think they just cover different aspects, and self-control has morphed into personal discipline and accountability. I think that is really, are you disciplined in what you do? Are you disciplined enough for yourself to save money? Are you disciplined enough to get the work done and know that, getting the work done, sometimes you have to do the hard things before you get to do the easy things that you want to do. I think having knowledge, I think all of those different characteristics are ones that have been timeless throughout the centuries, and that people who are successful, whether they've gone to college or an entrepreneur, those are successful qualities of a person who is in adulthood and looking back. These are things that I have focused on throughout my education career, and that you can continue to get better at. That there's no pinnacle, I'm the best at this. I think knowing that there's always work to be done in those areas.
I think also that, Dr. Moylan and Mrs. Moylan just didn't say, we're going to start a school. They did their research. Yeah. They traveled all over the country to try to find a model they thought that would be best for the young men and for Durham. And so I think some of what you saw was tips they got from other schools and other programs. So, they chose the nativity model because of, the community service piece of it, long days at that time. When they first started, we had long days. Self-control. So they went out and they found this is the model we want our young men to use. Yeah.
So, do you have anything to say? I just wanted before. No. Okay, that's fine. Now, if you could definitely say no. It's fine how it is. But if you could add another quality to the 5, academic competence, ethical principles, knowledge, cultivation of character, and self-control. If you could add another quality, what would you add? Or what do you believe is important?
Serving others.
So servitude?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Servitude?
Probably say confidence, as in confidence that I can do this, or I can help somebody else do this, or we can do this. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's an important thing. Yeah.
Okay. Now I have a question too. The DNS Man Creek, without looking behind you. Do you think you can recite it?
I don't think I can recite every single word, but I could tell you the 3 big principles.
Okay, yeah, please. For those who are watching, what are the 3 big principles?
I remember when every day we'd say, as DNS men, we will dare to dream big, never give up, and strive to excel.
And what does that mean to you?
To me, that means exactly what it says. I mean, to every day to have a goal in mind, to chase it, and when it gets hard, to not give up. And when I finish and I achieve that goal, to strive for even more. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So do you believe that DNS will ever admit women, or?
Oh my goodness, so many dreams. You know, I think right now we are focusing on an incredible education for our young men in 5th through 8th grade, increasing our partner schools, increasing our 12-year program. You know, have there been talks to go down to kindergarten? Yes, and start in kindergarten. Has there been talks, you know, people want a sister school, like all these different things. I think one of the things that independent education is expensive. Being a leader of an independent school, especially one where we award full scholarships to all of our students. And so because we get, you know, modest tuition, student activity fees from families, unlike other independent private schools who get most of their operating budget from tuition, it's really difficult. And in an ecosystem where small colleges are having to close, where small independent schools are having to close, I think we are being incredibly fiscally responsive and responsible. We are looking to be more sustainable as an institution, a nonprofit institution. We are looking to endow programs like our summer reading program. Because we have an endowment, we just pull off the money from the endowment every year and don't touch our principals, so that can exist into the future. And so how can we, and I think the board is doing an excellent job of helping us understand where we get our money, the grants that we get our money from. Right now we are getting some state money, but we luckily aren't getting any federal money. And so, you know, with all the different cuts for education, we're not impacted by that. But we are impacted by different cuts in other places, and whether our donors who have consistently over the years are able to provide continued support. And so while a sister school seems great, and while I would love to have a kindergarten and have an elementary school, lower school that filters in, I think to show, you know, we're coming up on our 25th year, which is phenomenal. Not every school gets to say, like, I've been around for 25 years, we have over 200 graduates, we are still thriving and economically, you know, being very fiscally responsible. I am so excited for in 2 years for us to be able to say that, and to have our, you know, as we create a strategic plan for the next 25 years, and what does that look like, and hopefully go into a capital campaign and all those things. That's more on the forefront of my mind than expanding in any way. We know that our school is necessary and needed. The need to have an all-boys middle school in Durham, in the area, you know, it is still around. And you see that in what's happening in the community, you know, in terms of violence, in terms of crime rates. You see that in terms of, you know, talking to families about needing mentorships. We have, you know, grandparents raising children, single parents raising children, foster parents raising children. And so how can we continue to be a beacon of light and provide the access to opportunities, and still we are necessary and needed.
So what's on the horizon for DNS?
Oh my God, so
End of
many.
this year?
I think continuing to strengthen our academic program. We, like our partner schools like Woodbury Forest, Ravenscroft, Cary Academy, Durham Academy, Carolina Friends, other boarding schools and other amazing schools, private schools, Cristo Rey in the area, continue mapping and strengthening our academic program. So when our students go to ninth grade at those partner schools, that they are those top students, they're getting into those honors classes, that they are thriving, contributing students at those other schools. And so, creating more partnerships, that's what we're looking forward to. Continuing to create community partnerships and community engagement, making sure that we're connecting with all the different organizations. Durham is at no loss for nonprofits, and so how are we continuing to meaningfully connect with them and bring them in for our students and their families? I think continuing to expand our volunteer base. There are a ton of organizations for people who are retired, or people who corporations and companies that require their employees to give back. How can we partner with those in order to get them in? Because we can't do the work alone as well. And so we are looking forward to actively increasing our volunteer base over the next year, which is very exciting because it's a two-way street. And so they can help our students learn, and our students then enrich their lives. And so how do we create these meaningful connections that are really can be lifelong connections with our students, for our students.
Wonderful. Well, we reached the end of the interview, but before we officially end, if you have any lasting comments or anything that you want to leave our audience with, anything, if not, it's fine.
I always tell people that Durham Nativity School is the best kept secret in Durham. I mean, it's always amazes me that we don't have kids just knocking at our door, so many that we can't admit them all. And I just want the community to know the impact that this school is having on our young men in Durham. And sometimes I don't think the message has gotten out, just how impactful. You're talking about young boys who are coming from elementary school, in some cases, I know personally, struggling, right? Not seen in the classroom, being told that, that kid can't read, or that kid can't do math, and they get here and you see the transformation, you're like, what's the disconnect?
What's
right?
the secret sauce?
What is the disconnect? And so sometimes I think the people in Durham don't know the jewel that they have right here on Main Street. It is truly changing young men's lives. I mean, no one could have told me for my grandson that he would even go to college, right? Now he's there on a full ride. So that's what I would say to the community. Durham Nativity is a model for Durham. It really is.
I can't say it better than her. I just want them, you know what, I really want more families to come visit the school, come to one of our events, visit our social media, really interact with the students, the family, the alumni, because once you become a part of the school, you'll realize, like just what you said.
I think one of the most impressive things, outside from meeting Sue when Lorenzo was 4 years old, was we came to an open house, and Roy Toston, who is in medical school
at UVA,
he spoke. He was in the 8th grade, and I was like, oh, I want my grandson to grow up to be just like him. And had I not come here, I might not have known just how great the school was. If you got to get them in the store,
yes.
And they can see the great things that Durham Nativity is doing. I'm so proud of them. Like, all these boys are like my boys. I'm so proud of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I have to say is for the younger audience, it's very easy to take advantage or to discard all these opportunities and all these chances we are getting. So what I'd say is truly appreciate it, truly take advantage of it in a good way, and let it shape you and let it make your future, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm just gonna go down. Ruby, it was truly a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to hear about your grandchildren.
Thank you.
The one at Emory for a full ride, and the one that has aspirations to run his own business. Just hearing your feedback and your fervor and your passion about DNS. Even someone who hasn't attended, I could tell that this is legit, because you said it over and over and over how this school has made a monumental impact in your grandchildren's lives, and you have seen the impact that it's made on other children's lives. So thank you so much for sharing that. Angel, I am very happy for you as well. Again, another full ride to the Woodbury in Virginia. In Virginia. Kudos to you, man. That's huge. And I was talking to you before the interview started. You know, that's a big deal. He was saying it was $70,000 a year. That is huge. I hope that you graduate. You will graduate. There's no hoping, and that hope is leaving, some room for doubt. You will graduate, and I hope you still consider medical school.
For sure.
He said that he wants to stay in North Carolina. You said Duke, Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
That's a very rigorous major, very rigorous discipline, but just definitely somebody who I know is going to be successful in that. So kudos to you, and I know everything's going to go well with you.
Thank you.
Tiffany, you are just the leader, the head that the school needs.
She's brought so much energy to this school. I don't know how she does everything.
It comes with growth. It's like you said, like there's no one path, there's no smooth path. There's gonna be, some up and downs, ebbs and flows, but as long as you're pushing forward, that's what matters. Again, with you as well too, your fervor, your attitude for servitude, and wanting to help, and that controversial statement that your teacher made when you were in New York.
In New York,
I could tell that that has been the fuel to your fire, and you haven't stopped. And a lot of people have stopped. A lot of people have heard that and just kind of kept it to themselves, talked to family and friends and not did anything about it, but you're doing something about it. And you want the best for your students, you want the best for your school, and that speaks volumes. And, all of the graduates' success is also a reflection of you and your leadership, because without you and your leadership, if there's no leader, there's no school. So
there's no team.
There's no team.
This is truly a love letter from all of us to Durham of the potential that we see in these young men and in the city, and in creating a model for other places. Like, we know education is the pathway forward, and so I can't do this by myself.
Yes.
And so I love seeing what other people do and bring in, and
Yes, and I also want to just say thank you for sitting down with me too.
Sure.
I know that you came on a whim. You were right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you remembered to come. No, seriously, thank you. Your feedback was very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And thank you for even wanting to do this in the first place. So thank you so much.
yes. Nope. Everyone, check out our social media.
Yes. Say your tags. Or Durham Nativity. Is it Durham Nativity on LinkedIn, or is it Durham Nativity School on LinkedIn?
I think it's just Durham Nativity. Yeah.
Okay. You have an Instagram also?
Instagram at Durham Nativity School, Facebook at Durham Nativity. We're the only Durham Nativity out there. So
Awesome.
check us out and like and share and follow. I think the greatest thing is seeing the incredible young men that are showcasing what they love and what they do, and you will be inspired by the young men at our school.
Thank you, everybody.
Definitely.
Thank you.